Good morning, everyone. My name is Tyrone. I'm an addict. Oh, y'all ain't woke yet. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tyrone, and I am an addict. All right, then. My goodness. I know it's Sunday morning. Y'all partied out, and you done all that we do on Saturday night at the conventions, and now it's time to repent and ask God for forgiveness. We didn't mean to do as much as we done, but we did it anyway, and God knows us, and He's always going to forgive us. Well, and that's good to know, and I'm glad to be here. I want to thank the committee for inviting me down to come out and share. You know, they had me band out the Bible Belt for a minute because they said I had potty mouth, and I told them promptly, fuck you. Because one of the things that happens I've learned over the years that I've been here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that because I've been here for a while. I'm not going to sit here and diminish God's grace and say that I've only been here a few 24 hours. I've been here a long time, and I'm saying that to the newer members and to the older members who might forget how blessed we are to be sitting here this morning. This is a morning things didn't have to turn out this way. And so in closing out the rivers of change, I feel some kind of way about it because I like that theme. That theme says that even though we go through what we go through as a fellowship, our literature speaks to, in the 8th tradition, it talks about sometimes our growth is sporadic and uneven. And in your personal recovery, I don't know if you've been like I've been, you know, I just look like this. God is good and black don't crack, but I'm in my golden years. And I'm one of them ones, I've been clean longer than I use now. And I always talk about the using. People say, man, you got all that time and you still talk about using. Yes, I got a drug problem. And I don't care how much time you got. This is a fellowship and society of men and women whom drugs have become a major problem. I ain't come here because I had too much Kool-Aid, I got too much coochie, no, I came here because the dope chased me to NA. The dope chased me to Narcotics Anonymous. And my job for the last 27 plus years is to find out what chased me to the dope. And if you don't know what chased you to the dope, it's probably still chasing you right now and you in the grips and don't know. But I'm recovering. Gracefully, gratefully, in the program of Narcotics Anonymous. Like most of y'all, I'm very well educated. I went to that same university all addicts go to, OCU. And for the newer members who don't know what OCU is, that's On the Corner University. And for the old dopers like me, see, when I started using, we used to buy $3 buttons of Doogie. We call it skag. On the East Coast, they call it mud. You know, everywhere you go, we had a different name. It was skag, doogie, mud, you know, junk. That's why they call us junkies, because there was nothing good in it. If everybody knew when they first got their first bag, if they had the ingredients and side effects like they do in the drug commercials they put on now, it would have said pain, misery, and suffering included. But nobody told me that. And we used to buy them little $3 buttons there. Them little $3 buttons, man, would get 10 or 12 of you chemically addicted. People would kill you. Because it was real dope. It was dope. And it made you dopey right away. But when you go into an institute of higher learning like OCU, you hang out with some very learned people. Snake, Dog, Pookie, Killer, Ray. You ever think about that when the literature says, you know, we reached the animalistic level that everybody you knew, you didn't know their name, you just knew they was cat, woolly rat, low down. Who the hell hangs with people like that? You know what I'm saying? But for some reason, I was so attracted to, and I'm the kid, I'm a Leo only child. I got to say that. I'm a Leo only child, so I got some strange mannerisms and habits that I had before I even picked up the dope. I can play with people that you can't see right now. Because the literature says we were at least two people. So at any given time, I could transform into somebody that you don't want to be. And on my way here, man, on my way to Narcotics Anonymous, man, I had a whole lot of things happen to me. I didn't just show up here looking like this here. You know what I mean? I came in, I got a little unusual story because I ain't got no penitentiary, abandoned building story. I ain't got none of that. I did 25 years of active addiction on the street. When we say freedom from our self-made prisons, I walk the streets locked up. I don't know if you can get with that. Being locked up and free, but locked up. Because the literature says our disease enslaved us. Now listen to this. If this is basic tech stuff, I don't never say nothing that deep. I ain't no heavy psychologist or nothing. I don't know what the hell went on through your mind and made you go back and forth all night long. I don't know. I just know I marched all night long. When the dope said, let's go, I said, right now? He said, yes, right now, let's go. Up. And if you know I'm from Chicago, we have bad weather. We got bad weather, we got bad people, we got bad streets, we got bad politics, we just got bad. Man, during the blizzard, the dope said, let's go. I said, but it's a blizzard outside. He said, man, let's go. What's wrong with you? And we going over in the projects. If you know anything about housing projects from the big cities, they 16 stories high with 16 apartments on each floor. And getting up is easy. It's getting down is hell. But I use dope. And my sponsor taught me, he said, man, this thing gets real simple after a while. And if the simplicity don't stay the key, then you'll find yourself complicating your ability to stay clean. He says, first, man takes a hit. Then the hit takes a hit. And then the hit takes the man. End of story. That's the whole rip. Everything about addiction can be summed up real easy. When we say one is too many, just one. And then the just never-ending chase of trying to catch the same one that caught you. Horrifying story. I ain't got no glory story to tell about addiction. It told me to fuck up. When I got here, I had 20 years on the same job. I had a good career on the railroad. And people said, well, man, how did you go to work and use every day? Very simply, I used that work. Wasn't that deep? People said, man, you went to work every day, every day. And loving to death, my oldest boy, sitting right over here now, when they brought the DOT came in and started dropping people in transportation, because I work for the railroad, I immediately had him pee in the cup. On my way to cop, took the pee with me, and when they dropped me, I was clean. That's what we do as addicts. So that's active addiction, because active addiction takes you to some spaces and places that you wouldn't want to be. But unbeknownst to us, see, I've learned some stuff about my disease as it affected me as I stayed clean. Because when the literature says the disease, this is progressive. Even without the substance, the disease of addiction will manifest itself in a variety of mental obsession, compulsive action, got nothing to do with the dope. Now, what the hell is this book talking about? Where's that at? Let me find. I got my book up here. Everybody that know me know. The people that know me know I read this book. I'm going to read. I'm sorry. Reading is fundamental. I don't know. How can you come to a program full of information and say fundamentally illiterate? It don't make sense. I don't go to no meetings where they don't read. I make all basic literature groups. I don't go to no toxic and distortion meetings. None of them. Because our literature says, and was the program, we have topic discussions, not toxic discussions. I'm just saying, I don't want no trouble. Because everything that occurs in the course of NA service must be motivated by the desire to more successfully carry the message of recovery to the addict who still suffers. Riding to change. We don't leave this other part out. We just going to ride to change. We don't get on the river just yet. Because the river, the funny thing about getting in a river, the current could be going the different direction than you trying to travel. And so then when you try and swim against the current, you finna have a problem. So I'm taking you somewhere with this though. So if everything that occurs should Everything must be motivated. Remember this book, this got must. It got 48 of them in the basic text. The word must is in there 48 times. Because it's giving us some clear directions, some stuff that if you want the benefits the program has to offer, then you're going to do certain stuff. So now I know what it's like to come up short in the program because I done bought some dummies clean. I don't know if you never bought a dummy clean, where you listen to the best information you had from yourself. I'm telling you now, you can buy some good dummies clean. You don't have to be high. But the disease of addiction is such an intoxicating. It can be so intoxicating once you get clean that you'll find yourself believing shit would only make sense if you was high. I'm just saying. I'm just talking about my story and what I went through in my process. You know what I'm saying? I've been clean since December the 5th, 1989. And look, a whole lot has happened to me. I'm one of them ones that came in BC. Because from like 83 to 90, there was a whole transformation that happened in Narcotics Anonymous. You know what I mean? And we call it in the neighborhood where I'm coming from, they call it BC, before crack, right? So if you came in before crack, we was going through something in the fellowship. We were going through an evolution. They were changing the literature over. We started to have stuff that gave us more information about the disease of addiction. Because, man, I love my predecessors. I don't know how the hell they got through on that little white book. I was like, God damn. My sponsor and them got them little old books and shit. They still hold them dear to their heart and sit and go to meetings where they hold teddy bears and shit. I'd be like, man, what's with this shit here? But I learned about the deeper levels of the disease of addiction. There was some stuff that I had been sharply affected. And you don't understand the nature of the disease of addiction until the disease of addiction makes its nature known to you. When it's got its hands around your throat and ain't no dope in sight. Then we'll see the exact nature of the work that you didn't do. See, it's easy to see the work, Alicia, that we did. But can you see the work that you didn't do? When your higher mental and emotional functions have been sharply affected because the disease will go without detection for years. 4 marriages later, I got it. That for some reason, I'm in love with the idea of being in love, but I never reached the spiritual ideal because the disease of addiction showed up in that area. Sharply affected. This is basic text, who's an addict stuff, folks. Yeah. But the deep psychological effects of the disease of addiction don't show up till the latter stages of recovery. After you've been clean for a while, the devastation starts to show up. Just look at how we all walking now with limps and got canes and shit. The high price of low living. Everybody got brand new teeth. New knees, new hips, eyes. We got implants and shit you shouldn't implant. And you know, you got to laugh sometime about this shit to keep from crying. What intelligent person would walk up to a door, don't see nothing but an eye? I'm talking about addicts. We have faith so far beyond what the average, we would say, religious person. We got faith. We'll take our last $10, walk 40 city blocks, don't see nothing but an eye, put our money through the hole. Now that's spiritual principle. And hope. I'm talking about we can put a twist on hope and hope that what we get back from the eye is going to do something for us. Now, keep in mind that we going to cop from snake, who work from dog, who get it from killer, and he just pulled it out the crack of his butt. And when we see the police, we throw it in our mouth. I'm talking about a disease. We're talking about the disease of addiction. Now, I don't know if that's been anybody's experience. I'm just sharing my own. But if you're an addict, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Because if you put the use of drugs ahead of the welfare of your wives, your husbands, your children, and your loved ones, if you do something strange for a little change, you done bumped around with Lottie, Dottie, and everybody, welcome. Because riding the river of change in the latter stages of recovery is very challenging. Because the literature says that it's very difficult to graft a new idea on a closed mind. So in the group I'm in, we got this little exercise we do. We call it practicing being cute. Compassionate, understanding, tolerant, and empathetic. Very challenging spiritual principles. Especially when you challenging the one addict you know yourself. And it's so difficult to be compassionate with each other in a place that's all we got to offer each other. Don't you find that very challenging when you just have to say, okay, you right to a motherfucker you know that's wrong? And I'm going to try and not cuss a lot because this is Sunday morning spiritual meeting, and I was just wondering, what the fuck tape did Bobby and them listen to? I'm that titty bar, gambling, whoremongering motherfucker. Why did they pick me to be the spiritual speaker? Shit, I'm subject to, feel like a nut, and sometimes I don't. But I believe that the program of Narcotics Anonymous performs some miraculous stuff. God, in his uniqueness, in his power, knew that there would have to be a place for the Tyrones of the world to come to and all his favorite friends. We them people, we wouldn't have never did nothing but hung with each other anyway. Because there was something wrong with us. Now I'm just going to talk about me. There was something wrong with me. I'm the kid that when I was a little boy, and I ain't going to take a lot of y'all time, I'm going to give about the best 45 minutes I got. When I was a little boy down in Ada, Mississippi with my grandmama, I would always notice stuff, and I would say, Grandma, what's wrong with Mr. So-and-so? And y'all Southerners know they say he got the palsy. Now the palsy was Grandma's way of everything she couldn't explain, she would tell me they got the palsy. And to this day, I notice when I be in Narcotics Anonymous meeting and another addict is acting in some strange way of mannerisms, I say, they got the palsy. Now the palsy is what you find in the 6th step. Because when you start to really identify what's defective about your character, and then you've been clean for a while, and ain't none of that shit changed, you start to identify with, I got the palsy and that's my character. When you find yourself in the grips of one of the effects of the disease of addiction, notice I said effects, not effects. Because we infected with the disease. We affected by how it makes us act. But the people in our lives live in the effects. That's why when you go to Hollywood and they make movies, they got a guy, he does special effects. They get Academy Awards for special effects. That's what we do in Narcotics Anonymous. We got special effects. We'll be in a business meeting and say, you don't know who you fucking with. Special effects. I understand the disease of addiction, and it'll bring about some mannerisms, and you just be just as spiritual. Everybody just be done prayed and said the serenity prayer, and we be done said the service workers prayer. God, let us write according to your divine precepts. And the next thing you know, Bobby, we choking each other. Special effects. Disease of addiction. Unaddressed characteristics of the character defect. Now, here's the cold part about it. Character defects show the characteristics before the defect shows up. You come to the meeting, people say, oh, I ain't seen you in a while. How you doing? Oh, I'm just fine. What the fuck you asked me that for? I just said hello. The characteristics of what something's going on the inside that I don't know how to express it on the outside. So what comes up is I don't know how to tell you how I'm feeling. Struggle as an adult not to be able to say how you feel. So I struggled for years being able to identify just that. I didn't know how to say how I felt. And when I did learn how to say how I felt, the disease of addiction had manifested itself in a variety of mental obsessive compulsive actions, so it had changed, it had mutated. For those who don't know the river of change, the disease of addiction will mutate. And the literature already told us, real simple, that it would change, it would show, it would express itself. This is basic tech stuff. It's just the psychological aspects of it. If something has the power to express itself, it don't come by and say, I'll be by at about 2 o'clock, meaning the character defect. It don't work like that. It's going to express itself, make detection, diagnosis, and treatment difficult. Now imagine having a symptom of any disease that goes undiagnosed, or even worse than that with clean time. My experience is I misdiagnosed some of the symptoms. And when you misdiagnose a symptom and start to act as if it's real, I'm talking about my disease, that the disease had created a holiday for me called, it was Halloween. And for years I came to the meeting masquerading as a recovering addict. Now I don't want to start no trouble, but some of y'all got your mask on now. Because that's what it's like. Because you can put the mask on, wear the mask for so long, start putting makeup on the mask and can't tell the difference. Imagine trying to pretend that you recovered. You ain't using, but ain't nothing changed. That's pretending that you recovered. That's the river that you swimming up, you trying to swim upstream. I'm just talking about my experience. If it happened to hit you, okay, you'll be all right. Stumble over a step, pick it up if you can. So, quick chronology of my recovery. From years 1 to 5, I was recovering my ass off. I was sharing like Shakespeare, man, quoting the literature. You couldn't come to a meeting if you said you was addict and the addict. I jumped up. No, we can't say that in here. I was in the NAPD. And you know, they even calling me a Nazi, black as I am. So yeah, one of them NA Nazis. I mean, I was riding. I'll ride on your ass. I go to meetings and meetings. You're breaking traditions here. Years 5 to 10, when that first pop, you know, that first pop at 5 years, your head finally pop out your ass and you realize, God damn, I'm clean. For real. I'm really clean. From 5 to 10, you walking in meetings, laying hands on newcomers. And for the other old timers, you know I'm going to tell it. They didn't tell you. I mastered stool pigeon 101. I'm going to tell it. Yeah, we lay hands on newcomers. Come with me, child. We call them emotional pedophiles. And I had to laugh because I'd be laughing at my own story. I remember, man, listen, I always tell this story. I once got married, didn't even know how old a woman was till I was divorcing her. We're just in Sunday spiritual meeting, so you got to laugh your way out of it. You can't leave here mourning and shit. I've learned something about Narcotics Anonymous. We are not here to mourn. This is where we come to make a joyful noise to uplift God's grace. This is a place we come, listen, Narcotics Anonymous is so unique. This is God's recycling center. This is where he takes fractured, broken, damaged human beings and restores them to productive, responsible members of society. Where else do they do that? It's the only place this happens. Where one addict can best understand and help another addict, because we speak a certain esoteric language. We say shit like cop, blow, punk, mark, trick. We can understand that. Where fuck you becomes a loving, caring message. Fuck you. I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? So, I had to loosen up. So in years 10 to 15, the second pop done happened. I done realized I done waste 10 goddamn years. Bullshitting. Because all your early step work is written by the disease. Now, I won't start no trouble because wasn't no step working guide. We didn't have no step working guide. We had all them old hand-me-down ass notes that came from sponsors. Y'all know what I'm talking about. We had them old hand-me-down ass notes. We don't know what condition the great-grand sponsor, the Poobah, was in when he wrote that shit. People talking about don't get no relationships for the first year. Man, listen. Try not fucking for a year. See how it works. Them be them mean motherfuckers in the meeting. Shut up. They don't want you to talk in the meeting. They don't want you to say nothing. I'm just saying. So from 10 to 15, I started to recover a little bit. I started to realize the exact nature of the disease of addiction. And it's the deep psychological impact that had happened to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm that little boy who didn't have to want for nothing. I'm an only child, living with my grandparents. I got some good upbringing. I got some great moral values. But there was something. The literature said there was that something. You know what I'm saying? One day I'm in church with my grandmama, and I'm doing something, and a lady tell on me what I'm doing. And my grandmother could pinch you and make it feel like a razor cut. You know what I'm talking about. Man, my grandma would pinch you, and she had them old government teeth down in Mississippi, and she would clench her teeth and grit them. She was a ventriloquist, I found out, because she would say, I'm going to kill you. And I would be looking like I knew I was dead already. And I learned something after I got to Narcotics Anonymous what resentment was. Because the lady that told on me, I said to myself as a little 7-year-old, I'm going to get your ass. And I plotted. My youngest uncle had made me a slingshot. Now, I ain't that country, but I've been down in the country. So he had made me a slingshot. Now, I'm talking about what resentment would do. I had my slingshot. I found me a rock. Must have been the same one that David killed Goliath with, because I polished it. I'm talking about what resentment will do. I took my rock and I polished it. And I knew the day she had to go to the country store, because you lived in the rural South where we wasn't, we was poor. A lot of y'all was poor, we was poor. I polished my rock. We talking about resentment. And I knew that this day she'd be going to the country store. And I laid there in the bushes like a sniper, like a ninja. Didn't care about the bugs and spiders. Damn the snake that was right down there. I was getting her. We talking about resentment. And I learned to practice resentment from that day forward because I laid there patiently. I didn't care what happened. I just had to do her. And when she came along, I laid there. It was almost like I was having a climax. Yeah. Ooh, when it hit, I heard a holler. Oh my goodness, I don't know if you had that exhilarating feeling when you done got back at a motherfucker. It got so good to me, I'm talking about how resentment will get so good to you, the lady walked right back up on me, laying there in the bushes laughing. She said, I'm going to tell your grandmama. And I brought that to the fellowship with me. One of the things I like to share with you, some of the things when we get clean, those same social ills that plagued us in society come to the fellowship. And they masquerade themselves as recovery. we'll say we practicing spiritual principles and we really practicing defects of character. Because the disease of addiction is a debilitating disease. For those of you who know what that word means, it means if it's progressing, even though the obvious symptoms, you can live with them, but it's still progressing, that's debilitating. So you can be getting okay, but not getting better. You okay, but you ain't got no better. Because we'll drag them same social ills, resentment, anger, and fear. Those are social ills, in case you didn't know. Those are things that will affect you, and you won't even know the infection that's growing. Because we can't ride the river of change if we don't first start to eradicate some of the things that are in the way of change. We start putting up dams in the river, won't let God's grace flow to us through us. Now, I don't want to cause no trouble, but I'm talking about my story, what it was like. So I'm in year 15. From 15 to 20, I started to make a dramatic turnaround. Because what happened was the evidence of the work I hadn't done started to show up. You know, I'm one of them circuit speakers. I done 400 cities and 400 conventions. I'm here. I know whose I am, why I serve, and I still got the willingness because he still gives me the power to carry it out. Now, if I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know I'm finna be 66 years old. God is good and black don't crack. The program works. And I'm saying that to say that if you've been through what I've been through, and if you ain't been through it yet, you gonna go through it if you stay clean, because you can't stay clean a long time, don't get old. And getting old brings on a whole new set of circumstances. Trust me. Shit you used to do all night, you're gonna be just happy to do at night. Can I get that bottle of water? I'm a little thirsty. Can I get that bottle of water? I'm just as hoarse. I left a bottle of water over there. So what happens is, oh, it's one up under here? Oh, wonderful. That's okay. Thank you. It's a good little convention. They got free water and shit. So riding the river of change sometimes can be very challenging because when you've been who you've been, as long as you've been who you've been, you may not be able to identify who you're not. We say, well, we practice these principles in all your affairs. Well, what if you ain't never had no affairs? What if the disease of addiction has always been your identity and never recovery? See, when we say, I'm a recovering addict, things change. It says in close association with other recovering addicts, if you read the literature. In close association. What's close association? I hang out with people who make meetings, who live the steps, who practice principles to the best of their ability. That's what brings the change. Because I don't know how to change on my own. I need to see, this is a monkey see, monkey do program. Just like active addiction was. I did not know how to mix dope. I had to watch somebody mix it. I did not know how to re-rock cocaine. Somebody had to show me. I watched the other monkeys. How you do that? That's what the literature says. We ask another addict, what was it like for you? I ask people that all the time. What was that like for you? If they give me an answer that makes sense, I go with it. If it don't make no sense, I'll just tell them that shit don't make sense. You got to explain that to me. How'd you do that? So this monkey see, monkey do. I see you come to the meeting with your book, I bring my book. Now, if the new member don't see no evidence, because this literature says based on the evidence. And for those of you who've been in the criminal justice system, you know that's what the state's attorneys say. Because I've been in the criminal justice system too. I'll tell you a little bit of that story. In 1972, I got locked up. They offered me 20 to life, some old crazy shit they say I did. And I still say I didn't do it. But I remember the state's attorney saying, Your Honor, based on the evidence. So when I got to the program and seen that in the literature, I says, oh, based on the evidence, half y'all ain't fucking recovering. Based on the evidence. You know what I'm saying, Bobby? Some of the evidence I got, Like I've been here all weekend. I can count the hugs I got. Shh, don't say nothing. I ain't gonna point nobody out. People walk past you. They ain't even nod. You know, dogs walk past you and go, ruff, ruff, ruff. What kind of motherfucking shit is this? I know I took a bath yesterday. Couldn't be that bad today. So we have to be very mindful of the message that we send because we don't know who people are. Riding the River of Change says there's room for all the manifestations of the recovering addict. Now, if you read the literature, manifestations of the recovering addict. So a recovering addict, when one sees one, we acknowledge each other. We say, ruff, ruff. A hug, man. A simple hug may be the only thing to keep a person connected to this process. This is the place, man, that nobody had nothing to do with nobody, and a hug may be the only thing that they remember they got when they came to the meeting for the first time. They got a hug. Somebody who didn't nobody hug them at home. Somebody who ain't never had the touch and love of a family member. So I just had to get that out. Hug somebody when you don't see them. Hug somebody you don't know. It's easy to hug the people that you know, even though you got resentments with their ass and running off with your baby daddy and mama. Some shit. You'll hug them anyway, but you won't hug the stranger. But anyway, from 15 to 20, I'm starting to do the work, right? So I revisit some of the steps. And what happens, I believe, for me, when I started to revisit the steps, I started to see little bitty words like change. Like change? You know, and then I heard that the disease would change you into somebody you didn't want to be. Devious, frightened loners without the dope. That you hadn't let nothing touch me emotionally ever. Because I'm still carrying the hurt from when I was in grade school and I used to give Charlene Hunter my candy and then she went out with the light-skinned dude with the curly hair. Now y'all laughing, but you know you got your story. You got your little hurt, your little bit of a private pain, we call it. That place where that private pain is, that it's hard to reveal it, that it hurts so bad you could drop cotton on your feet and hurt your feelings. That little area. You know your baby daddy, him, that one you first gave that little coochie to for the first time because you loved it, him. I was giving Charlene my candy from the 4th grade right through the 8th grade. And I went to Catholic school, right? But she went out with somebody else at graduation. Now, when you can't process that, again, resentment popped right back. Ain't no motherfucker gonna ever make me feel like that no more. Ever, never. I'm gonna kill them all. You become a serial killer. Because this is a fellowship society of serial killers too. Because we kill dreams. We massacre hope. And we unwilling. Yeah. I thought that would be some shocking information. Because deep in the back of the addict mind is Dr. Frankenstein. Y'all know who I'm talking about. When you have that feeling that's like a UFO, an unidentified flying object of a spiritual nature, and you ain't even told your sponsor yet that you thinking this kind of shit. Yeah. And don't even mention how the emotional trauma that comes from some kind of ship ending. We don't know if it was a flagship or a cruise ship or a rubber raft, but the ship went down. Because we're not good at that. I'm going to read that out the literature. Because the literature says we ain't good at relationships, right? We good at getting aboard, but we ain't good at being the captain or first mate. Because we got cabin boys dressed up in captain's outfits. And we got first mates whose only requirement is they can swab the deck. We'll catch up. We'll catch up. You got to tell the truth about this. You can't have a lot of clean time and can't tell the truth. If you can't tell the exact nature of who you are not, you may be pretending to be who you are. See, I had the disease of addiction with his hand up my back like the ventriloquist dummy, and my mouth was moving, but I wasn't saying shit. They got 2 programs on TV about addicts. The ones who in active addiction, they out there right now, we call them the walking dead. They walking, they chasing your ass. That's what active addiction was like. If you really look at that show real close, they after something, just like we would be. Soon as we see a motherfucker, we are home. He look like he's a good lick. Here's a good lick here. It don't matter whether you family, you know, they put the use ahead of everything. They don't care, yeah, you cousin Tommy, but I'm eating you. And then the other show is the one about us that's in here. We haven't had the spiritual awakening yet, so we just the talking dead. We talking about recovering, but we ain't living it. We ain't hit the river of change yet. Because change, the literature says, an active change in our ideas and our attitudes. But since my attitude is polluted and with diversion, not diversity, with diversion, because that's what this disease operates out of. It distracts, it distorts, and it diverts us from our primary purpose. My primary purpose, I started out here, was to more effectively carry the message. I can only carry the message that I have. I can share my experience, what it's like to be almost 66 years old, 28 years clean. I've been clean longer than I use, and I got some experiences that's probably unique just to me. And I tell the people that I work with, listen, you are unique. You were specifically chosen not to be the one in the back of the newspaper. You could have made the back of the newspaper. This didn't have to come out this way. You know what I mean? The little 100 or so of us that's in this meeting, we unique because we at the Sunday morning meeting. Who the fuck comes here? People who dearly want to recover. There's something about the closing meeting that, man, you want to go home with your last little piece. See, we real dope fiends. You know, on Sunday morning, they used to give out blessings. I don't know where y'all come from. Sunday morning with a blessing meeting. See, the old dopers know what I'm talking about. If you've been good all week, spending your money all week, you go by the spot, my spot, and they got it Sunday morning, they got a blessing for you. That's why they call it the blessing meeting. So I'm going to bless you with this. That if you haven't identified the areas that the disease has sharply affected you, take the time, old timers, to go back to the basics. Because if you don't get too far away from the basics, it won't be such a fight to get back to them. Because it still wants to maim and kill the old timer. Newcomer, he can have you when he wants to, but old timers, he wants your ass. It ain't nothing like the disease being able to make an example of an old timer. String your carcass up in front of everybody. Look, I tore the frame out his ass. His backbone, tore the fuck out. So everybody can talk about your ass in the meeting. Good sharing ass. Share that. I got to go back into the literature. I got a piece I need to read out the literature right quick that says something that in our 11th step, in the step working guide, it talks about what's God's will for our lives. And we said on the river of change, what's God's will for Gretna 36? What's God's will for the local community? What's God's will for my life? And the struggle comes down to one simple question. It says, the first thing to do is identify God's purpose for our life. If I can't identify God's purpose for my life, then I probably have a lot of people in my life without purpose. I'm probably hanging out a lot of places that don't have no purpose in my life. And I'm probably doing a lot of things that don't serve no purpose for my life. So until I identify God's purpose for my life, what's my purpose? That's scary stuff to wake up one day 24, 25 years clean and realize you ain't got no purpose in your life. It's scary stuff, man, to stand here and say, man, I had to spend a lot of time standing and living for non-existent virtues. That the disease of addiction had pulled a Houdini maneuver on me. Everybody know who Houdini was, right? Houdini, people say he was a magician. No, Houdini was an illusionist. The disease of addiction could be considered like Houdini. And you can get clean, and the Houdini, the disease, will create a set of circumstances that don't fit the reality of your life. Imagine living, at least in a false set of circumstances, pretending it's real. Imagine starring in a cartoon. Sometimes I get real silly. But I know what it's like to go out, into what the literature says we tend to fantasize. And fantasy is okay. We can still indulge in fantasy because everybody's got a dream. Except when we cross the line, we go from starring in a fairy tale to starring in a horror movie. So it takes a large amount of open-mindedness to begin to understand God's will for us, right? So I'm in year 20. On my 20th anniversary, my best friend died. On our anniversary. And we're having a big celebration in Chicago, big banquet, because I'm one of them baller types. I do shit big. You see me, even in my mind, I be thinking big shit. I'm having me a big ball. I'm going to do this. I had, last year, me and my sponsor, I had a Medicaid party. People say, who the fuck does that? I'm having a Medicaid party. Because I want to know what God's will for my life is. And sometimes the question mark comes up when God says no. Then we see what your recovery really looks like. When God says no. And being a good addict, we got to talk about this, God. We had this discussion. Come on now. I've been recovering and sponsoring and doing service. And, I was telling Bobby, hell, I've been put out of NA more than anybody I know. Shit, they done voted me out and thrown me out. Shit, I've been tarred and feathered and every goddamn thing. You know what I mean? And Daryl told this old stupid joke the other day. He said, man, sometimes you can be so black when you get in the car that oil light come on. And I took that to a spiritual aspect. I said, that's what can happen to us in recovery. That sometimes the disease can cloud our ability to think logically, because I read the book a lot. And I apply it to every one of my affairs. Has the disease clouded my ability to think logically? And if I can't think logically, then I'm right back in the grip. Because God ain't in sight. I'm back running on what I know. And listen, in the Living Clean, it's got a cold piece that says, man, listen, it's going to come a time when everything you know ain't enough. Now imagine that. You got 28, 29, 30, 35 years clean, and all you know ain't enough. Are you riding the river of change, or have you come to the dam again and can't get around it, can't get over it, and can't get under it because you ain't open-minded enough to listen to nobody who might not have as much time as you? To a true wise man, there's words of wisdom from the mouth of a fool. Because a fool can't act wise. But he can damn show you, don't end up like this. So my message is, because I told you I was going to give you, I'm trying to time myself. One of the things that changed for me on that 20th anniversary when Salam died, and a lot of my friends know Salam was my main man, it was a life-changing situation. You know what I'm saying, Uncle Funky? It was a life-changing situation because I knew then that if God wanted me to change, he would have to use something. And it was my best friend's death that brought my son back into my life. And he said to me, I know what my role is now. I'm here to be your best friend now. And I looked at his ass. I was like, motherfucker, I don't fuck with you. I'm just saying in my mind. You know what I mean? But the reality of it is sometimes the instrument. So you don't get to choose the instrument. That's why I was telling y'all about the hug. You don't know what the instrument is going to be. You know what I mean? To inspire a person's desire to stay here one more day, to go through one more fuck you, to go through I ain't never coming back, to go through one more. So sometimes his will with my little bitty mind, because you know you can have your eye at the peephole of recovery. And then get to the 11th step and see you ain't been recovering now, not one day. That you've been in the grips of the disease of addiction, ain't even no dope in sight. Because closed-mindedness won't allow me to see beyond what I know. So I don't let my clean time get in the way of learning. I read a lot. I listen to the new people. When the new people share, I tell everybody, shut up. They finna tell me what not the fuck to do. I want to hear that. Some people, because I was doing this internship in this thing, and I was listening to some of the music people. I was like, what the fuck is they talking about? You know, we've been off the streets a long time. They got new game. They got some new and improved whoop ass old timers. They got some new and improved whoop ass. Trust me. And when they first come into the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, boy, they got game. They got game that's got to be edited so old suckers can play it. But I had to learn to listen. So from that day the salon died to my 25th year, I had to totally reinvent my recovery. I had to get out of God's way and let him remove everything. Everything. Because I had realized I had been holding on to shit I should have been let go of. When the literature says we needed something to help us with our powerlessness, helplessness, and uselessness. Now, we never hear anybody saying we're going to do a workshop on uselessness. It sounds nasty when you say uselessness. That is what was in the way of God's will. That I was so addicted to the uselessness. Useless people, useless places, useless things. So he started to remove them. Wife number 4 had to go. She had served her purpose. She had showed me you can't manage another motherfucker's disease. We had 2 railroad checks every 10 days. We had $6,000, couldn't keep a dime. She was a gambler. Yeah, that gambling a bad motherfucker. I seen she swole up and I said, yeah. We was broke enough to ride. I called my sponsees and said, y'all ain't over here in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to be the GSR in the county jail. I'm like, yeah, this motherfucker. They had to come and pack me up and move me real quick. Because I couldn't, like Popeye, eyes can't take no more. But I learned something from that. That we are so addicted, I'm so addicted to what I like, that in spite of God provide me with all that I need, I'm into what I like. And I had to make peace with some aspects of your life. You just got to make peace with it. It ain't no character defect, it's just your character. You just a creep. I like that sound in her throat. That shit. I don't know how. Everybody got some old creepy shit they like. Y'all don't sit there and look like I'm the only creep in the house. Come on now, you in NA. You in Narcotics Anonymous. Everybody's creepy here. You ain't saved. Do the autopsy of your feelings and shit. We'll find some, be all kind of porn stars in here. Do the autopsy of your thoughts. You know what I mean? You think about that. You know how the people say, if you could see the caption coming out of people's heads sitting in meetings when motherfuckers walk in, you'd be like, damn. Thank God we don't have captions coming out of our heads in the meetings, man. Woo! It would be too much. But I'm going to close with this here. It's a piece that I had to really embrace in these last couple of years. Like I said, 20 to 25, there was a resurrection, having had as a result. See, you can't have an awakening without first getting an experience. A lot of folks want the awakening, but they don't want to go through the experience. And what Lisa was talking about, we had to go through some experiences. We had to make some admissions that our spirits was decaying and dying clean. Can't awaken unless, you've been asleep. Listen to what the step says. Having had a spiritual awakening. I got to remember that my spirit had to be asleep for it to awaken. The literature is real simple. So if I'm awakening as a result. Got to go head on, not on my head. When the swelling went down, understanding came. Got to get a go ahead on now, because we don't let go easy. We hold on to shit like this here. No, I ain't gonna let her go. She mine. But got her like this. Death grip on shit. Haven't had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps. No steps, no awakening. No admission. Every step is a level of admission. Admit I can't handle dope. Admit I'm unmanageable when I don't let go. When I can't admit it, I'm going to stay unmanageable. I want to stay in control. Need power greater than me, because me with myself equal food. Better make a decision. Most of my decisions have had to be forced. Yeah. Got to have it. Okay, you right. And we write them old fake-ass 4 steps. Frauds, I call it. My sponsors bring me this shit. Like, what the fuck is this fraud? You want to get indicted? You get indicted with this kind of 4-step. The disease made you a hell of a motherfucker. You still ain't shit. Cut it out. But the awakening, man, at the time. And I said it old times, I'm going to take my whole bunch. I got a bunch of them ones with 25 years more. They all finna do new 4 steps. Got to do no 4th step. Because this disease will have you pretending you somebody that you're not with time. Remember, it's got the Houdini maneuver. It'll create an illusion. It had me pretending I was happy. What kind of energy it take to fake a smile? Then soon motherfucker, I'm sick of this motherfucker. Haven't had a spiritual awakening. These steps try to carry this message. I only got one message. That an addict. Any addict. But what we live with, we learn. What we live with, we learn. We talking about the habits that we have. What we live with, we learn. What we learn, we practice. What we practice, we become. And what we become has consequences. So, I came here and I learned to live with some stuff. Accept the things I could not change. I was an addict. This is a program proven to help addicts. What it was, men and women, drugs have become a major problem. Why they was here is questionable. But I stayed anyway. How it works changes with time. How it works is going to change with time. You know what I mean? The steps are still the same, but the application, like I say, you can't get a lot of clean time, don't get old. You ever had some of y'all identify with this here? You get ready to get up and go to get out the bed and your legs say, not yet. In a minute, we going to get up. That's acceptance. You know what I'm saying? Accept the things I can't change. I've been here for a while. You know what I'm saying? Some stuff has gotten different, but most folks want things to get better, but they got to accept that things got to get different first. And when the differences show, the wisdom to know the difference. I'm different now. Quit holding me to that shit. We'll indict you and hold you to a charge that happened when you had 2 years clean at 30. We still talking about shit that happened when you had 2 years ago, motherfucker. You was smoking. What do you know? Close out with that. That is not riding the river of change when we keep on re-indicting the members with shit mistakes that they made when they were new. Old timers, let the other old timers off the hook. Unless you can bear your little shit and lay it out. Let everybody off the hook, man. If God has forgiven us, who are we to indict somebody to the consequences that we ain't even been through ourselves? And if we went through it, how would we have played it? So I want to thank everybody for coming out to the Sunday morning meeting. I don't know if I was the most dynamic spiritual speaker at GRCNA ever had, but I'm going to have to do till they fucking